Single mother's life-changing act of kindness revealed stunning billionaire's hidden past, an incredible tale of redemption and community. Clara watched the dark clouds gather over Maplewood, a bustling little town where dreams thrived amidst white picket fences and blooming gardens. But she didn't have time to worry about the weather. Today was a busy day at the diner, and she couldn't afford to miss a shift. Squeezing her son Jake's tiny hand, she whispered, "We are strong, and we can achieve anything together." His innocent smile warmed her heart. The afternoon arrived with a vengeance, unleashing rain that ripped through the streets, tossing trash cans like toys and uprooting trees. As she stood soaked in her living room, news footage of chaos played on the TV, Clara felt a spark ignite within her. "We can't sit back," she thought, "we need to help our neighbors." In the eye of the storm, she organized her neighbors, scrambling to gather clothes, food, and anything that could help those hardest hit. Clara's heart surged with pride as they distributed supplies, laughter blending with the storm's fury outside, creating a sense of unity the town had forgotten. Everyone pitched in, even curious children, their faces smeared with mud and wonder. Then, amid the chaos, Clara came face to face with Mr. Thompson, the reclusive old man everyone avoided. His presence sent a chill up her spine. Once a millionaire, he was now taunted by the townsfolk, shadows of judgment trailing behind him like a heavy veil. Most just whispered, calling him a pariah who squandered his wealth. But Clara, driven by instinct, approached him. "Can I get you some coffee?" she asked, hopeful. To her surprise, Mr. Thompson nodded. They sat together in the small cafe, the flickering lights casting long shadows around them. As they talked, he revealed layers of grief and regret that came with the price of wealth. He wasn't just a man who fell from grace, he was someone who had loved, lost, and battled through the storms of life. Clara felt her heart ache for him. There was a depth to his story, a mirror reflecting her struggles as a single mother who fought for a better life for her kids. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. When Clara realized their community project could help restore Mr. Thompson's reputation, doubt twisted in her gut. Should she risk her own standing in Maplewood to help him reclaim his dignity? The question hung in the air, heavy but vital. Could they truly change how the town saw him? A cycle of prejudice loomed, as thick as the storm's remnants outside. Her heart pounded as she looked into Mr. Thompson's eyes, a deep yearning buried within. Clara knew they could accomplish something remarkable if only they could overcome their shared pasts. The stakes couldn't be higher, and with the community's reaction still uncertain, the weight of their challenge lay ahead. Would they embrace a chance for redemption, or would judgment cast a long shadow over them both, leaving their dreams dashed? Clara's mind raced as she sat across from Mr. Thompson, the storm outside continuing its relentless assault. The faint echoes of thunder resounded through the diner, almost mirroring the deep rumblings of her heart. She felt like everything she'd worked for, her reputation, her dreams, her son's future, hung in the balance. "Mr. Thompson," she began, her voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling inside her, "I think we can change how people see you. We could host a community event, a charity drive. People could see the real you, not the shadows of your past." He stared at her, vulnerability etched in every line of his face. "But would they even care to listen, Clara? You really believe they would? They see a failure, not a person. Sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to melt the coldest hearts," she replied, her conviction piercing through the doubt that clung to them both. "We'll gather stories, show how much you've done for others in ways they never saw." The flicker of hope ignited in his eyes momentarily, then it faded as fast as it appeared. Mr. Thompson took a deep breath, the weight of his decisions crushing him. I lost so much it's hard to trust again. Clara reached across the small table, her hand brushing against his. You're not alone in this. You fought for your life, just like I fight for Jake every day. Let us fight together. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, an unlikely partnership formed. But with that alliance came a fresh surge of fear. Hostility does not easily sway, and Maplewood had its views, deeply ingrained and hard to break. Clara needed to rally the townsfolk, not just for Mr. Thompson's sake, but for the children, for unity, and for community. As the rain poured down outside, Clara conjured an image of the event in her mind, a community gathering in the town square, warm lights strung across trees, laughter replacing the storm's chaos. But she also saw the faces of those who might stand against them, anger written in narrow eyes and hardened expressions. Days passed as Clara prepared, her call for help spreading throughout the community. Flyers were made, meetings were held in small living rooms filled with earnest eyes and awake dreams. As promised, she shared Mr. Thompson's story, painting a portrait of loss and survival that began to crack the cold facades of skepticism. Yet, there was still trepidation in the air. Whispers of dissent lingered as some townsfolk rallied against the idea of giving Mr. Thompson a second chance. During a crucial meeting at the library, Clara's heart raced as she faced a group of residents. This isn't just about him, she pleaded passionately. This is about our community. What kind of example do we want to set for our children? Some in the crowd softened, others, their arms crossed defiantly, still glared. The room lingered in a thick silence. Clara could feel every heartbeat make time stretch unbearably. Think of our values. We cheer for each other in good and bad times. We're better than our grudges. Her voice rose, urgency flooding her words. Suddenly, Jake burst into the room, his small figure illuminated by the sun breaking through the clouds. Mom! He beamed, oblivious to the tension, holding a handmade sign that read, "Everyone deserves a friend." The room fell silent, and the weight of Jake's simple message shifted the atmosphere. Clara's heart swelled with pride as the townsfolk looked on, some shifting uncomfortably, others whispering among themselves. When the first smile appeared faint but real, a surge of hope washed over her and Mr. Thompson. Could it be possible to break down the barriers of judgment? Would kindness, fueled by a child's innocent belief, be strong enough? But as the meetings continued, it became clear that not everyone was on her side. Clara braced herself for the real test ahead. She hoped with all her heart that they would emerge stronger on the other side of love's commitment. Could they genuinely forge a new path, or were they just destined to become another memory buried in the mud of the storm? The answer lay just beyond the horizon as they prepared for the event of their lives. Ever since Jake had entered the room, Clara felt the weight of the world shift slightly on its axis. His sign, bright and optimistic, had left an indelible mark on the atmosphere. It felt different now, not so much a battleground, but a space for potential. Yet, in the back of her mind, doubts surfaced. Could one child's hopeful spirit truly reshape a town steeped in judgment? The days leading up to the event were filled with preparations. Clara and Mr. Thompson spent hours organizing every detail. They gathered supplies like foods, decorations, and stories of kindness. They leaned on local businesses, who slowly began to warm to the idea. A few bakeries offered goodies, a local bookstore donated books, the diner where Clara worked contributed hot meals. But there were still whispers of dissent. Clara could hear them as she moved through town. A charity for him? Why should we help a man like that? He's made choices. Why should we reward failures? Those voices echoed louder than the supportive ones. On the night before the event, Clara sat at her kitchen table, staring at the plans laid out before her. The rain kept pouring outside, a fitting backdrop to her thoughts. It felt like the world was testing her resolve. Jake came into the room, his small fingers grasping the edge of the table. "Mom, are you okay?" His big, round eyes reflected innocence, but Clara saw the worry etched on his tiny face. "I'm just thinking, baby," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Tomorrow is a big day. I want it to be special for everyone." Jake climbed onto the chair next to her, his little legs swinging as he leaned closer. "What if they don't come? What if they're mean?" Clara's heart squeezed. She didn't want to shake his belief. "What if they do, Jake? What if they come and they listen? We're showing kindness, and that's all that matters." He nodded, but Clara could tell he was still uncertain. She wrapped her arms around him, pulling him close. "You know, sometimes it takes a little while for people to see the good in others. They just need a tiny spark to remind them." Later that night, as Clara tucked Jake into bed, she found herself whispering a silent prayer. She hoped for a miracle, even if it was just one smile in the crowd. The day of the event dawned sunny and bright, a stark contrast to the storm that mirrored her emotions. Clara arrived at the town square early, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked around, taking in the artfully placed lights, the tables full of food, and the community gathering. As participants began to arrive, Clara's nerves danced with excitement and fear. Wherever she turned, there were faces both familiar and unfamiliar, but not all were welcoming. Clara's stomach twisted as she spotted a group of hardened residents gathered at one corner, arms crossed and expressions set in stone. Mr. Thompson stood nearby, taking shaky breaths as he watched people arrive. Clara approached him, and she could see the overwhelm in his eyes, the desire for acceptance tinged with fear. "You ready?" she asked, trying to project confidence. He forced a tight smile. "Ready as I'll ever be." The event kicked off with laughter and small talk. Clara introduced Mr. Thompson, and for a moment, there was silence. The smiles shifted uncomfortably among the crowd of townsfolk. Clara took a deep breath, hoping this was the moment they stepped into understanding. Then Jake stepped up, eyes bright with trust. "Hi everyone. Today is about friends and kindness. My mom says everyone deserves a chance." There was a ripple through the crowd, a mix of hesitance and intrigue. As Clara watched the residents' faces, she felt the tide beginning to turn, just a little. But as the speeches began, a loud voice cut through the air, a familiar one. "And why should we believe him? People like him don't change." Clara turned, dread pooling in her stomach. The group in the corner had stepped forward, and she recognized the man at the front, Mr. Walker, a well-known opponent of change, his voice filled with anger and accusation. "You're wasting our time." The crowd looked at each other, feeling the tension build. Clara felt her heartbeat quicken, the air heavy with anticipation. Would the event be a breakthrough, or would it shatter into 100 pieces right in front of her? As she stood there, searching for the words to bridge the gap, a small voice came from her side, Jake, gripping her hand, confident and clear. "Everyone deserves a friend, even if they've made mistakes." Tension hung thick, and the moment felt fraught with potential. Clara took a breath. Would Jake's innocence shine brightly enough to pierce through the darkness? And then Clara's gaze met Mr. Thompson's, both holding their breath, waiting for the crowd's next move. Would love and hope prevail? The answer felt like it hung in the air, teetering on the edge of possibility. Clara felt the breath catch in her throat, a swell of anxiety rising with each second of silence. The air was electric, charged with expectation and frustration. The eye of the storm lay between her and Mr. Walker, whose unwavering confrontation seemed to taunt both her and Jake. She had to act quickly, there was too much at stake. "Mr. Walker," she finally called out, her voice trembling yet firm. "I understand your concerns. We've all seen what?" He interrupted, his brow furrowed in defiance. "A man who made his choices. A community that would rather waste their time on lost causes?" Clara felt the urgency of Jake's hand in hers, a tether that pulled her back from the brink of despair. This isn't just about Mr. Thompson. It's about all of us. A chance to show that change is possible, even when it seems impossible. We're here to build bridges, not walls. A low murmur swept through the crowd. Some nodded slowly, considering her words, while others remained rigid, stone-faced. She glanced at Jake, who was watching with wide eyes, a mixture of hope and fear in his expression. Mr. Thompson stepped forward, the uncertainty in his eyes fading just a bit. You know, I've made mistakes. But I'm standing here today not because I think I deserve a second chance, but because I want to earn it. If I'm offered kindness, I want to show that I can pay it back, or is it just another excuse? Mr. Walker cut through again, the disdain sharp in his tone. The crowd held its breath. Clara could see the shadows of judgment still lurking. But then, out of nowhere, came a voice from the back. You know what? We all have made mistakes. How many of us have been given a second chance? It was Mrs. Jennings, an elder stateswoman of the town, her weathered face full of warmth. She continued, if we don't give Mr. Thompson a moment to be part of this community, how are we any better than those who wronged us? Her words were like a spark tossed onto dry leaves. A few in the crowd began to murmur in agreement. Clara felt a flicker of hope within her. She caught Jake's eyes, his face lit up a little more with each passing heartbeat. Yeah. A younger voice called out from the back, emboldened by Mrs. Jennings. We should be better than this. Everyone makes mistakes. Jake squeezed Clara's hand tighter, his little face alight with determination. And everyone deserves to be friends. He shouted again, his innocence cutting through the tension like a hot knife through butter. Soon, there were nods of agreement. Clara felt as if the crowd was shifting, faces softening, as if her little boy was the beacon leading them through the darkness of their grievances. The corners of Mr. Walker's mouth twitched in an awkward frown, eyes darting between the growing moments of consensus. He was losing ground, and Clara could sense the underlying fear coating his bravado. Let us give him a chance, she urged, her voice rising to persuade the remaining holdouts. Let us show that our town isn't defined by darkness, but that we can foster light. A ripple of murmurs began to turn into applause. It wasn't thunderous, but it was real. As Clara breathed in the moment, she felt a rush of gratitude towards Jake, towards everyone stepping into this new possibility. This was the moment, she realized, where vulnerability met strength. The potential to inspire others, to create change, lay in their collective hands. But as she let that exhilarating feeling wash over her, she caught sight of Mr. Thompson's face, now lit with hope, just as shadows danced in Mr. Walker's deepening frown. The battle had not been won. The struggle was far from over. As the applause continued, Clara feared they had only begun to stir the pot of discontent. What other obstacles would they face? How would they confront the deep-seated beliefs that shaped this town? The answer lingered in the air, heavy and unresolved, casting shadows over the bright sincerity of the moment. Would they have the strength to keep pushing forward, even when adversity tried to take root again? With the crowd's applause fading, Clara felt the anticipation shift within her. Just how deep were the roots of judgment in their community? And what would be required to dig them out? The applause from the crowd slowly died down, replaced by an uneasy silence that hung in the air, heavy with unspoken words. That tense moment stretched, and Clara could feel the pulse of uncertainty all around her. It was clear that the initial wave of support wasn't enough to change every heart in the room. Mr. Walker, his face clouded with determination, rose from his seat with palpable resentment. Clara met his gaze, and he leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing. You may win over some today, but there are folks here who won't be swayed by your niceties. Not everyone deserves forgiveness, and some mistakes can't be washed away. Clara felt Jake tugging on her sleeve but didn't divert her attention from Mr. Walker. She could sense the deep cracks in their community, shaped by years of pain and bitterness. But was forgiveness really that difficult? Couldn't they see it wasn't about letting someone off the hook, but about opening a door to possibility? Mr. Walker, she began again, her voice steadier now, I don't think any of us are here to diminish the past. We want to acknowledge it. We want to heal it, together. Across the room, murmurs began to rise again. Some faces frowned, others contemplating her words. Yet a few individuals strangers to her, yet part of the same community nodded, their expressions softening. Clara held on to that glimmer of hope, refusing to back down. Just as she gathered the conviction to speak again, a familiar voice rose from the back. It was Arthur, a local mechanic who kept to himself most days. I got in trouble years ago, he confessed, his voice trembling slightly. I thought I was beyond saving. But it was folks like you, Clara, who took the time to just listen. That made all the difference. Some in the crowd turned to look at him, their frames shifting as they processed his admission. Amongst them, Clara noticed a few peer into their pasts, faces revealing reflections of struggle, vulnerability, and perhaps a bit of regret. From beside her, Jake drew a breath. If we don't help him, he piped in again, his innocent voice somehow breaking through all of it, then we're telling him he's not worth it. Just because he made a mistake doesn't mean he's bad. Clara felt a warmth swell inside. Her little boy, so pure in his understanding, illuminated a truth that echoed in the silence of the room. Suddenly, young voices filled the gathering, carrying echoes of support back to the front. The moment felt electric. Let us give him a chance. Someone else shouted, emboldened by Arthur and Jake's words. Clara felt the tide shift. More people began to rally, as the mood traveled from resistance to reflection. Could this growing solidarity withstand the pushback from the skeptics? Yet, Mr. Walker was not finished. You think this is enough? He scoffed, crossing his arms defiantly. You think one moment of shared kindness can erase a reputation? That it can rewrite history? In that declaration, Clara could feel the tension re-emerging. The struggle wasn't merely about Mr. Thompson but about dismantling layers of mistrust that had built up for years. How could they move forward when old wounds were easily reopened by a single spark? Perhaps it starts with us, as a community, Clara asserted, feeling emboldened by the support of those around her. It begins with acceptance, healing, and the willingness to forge a better path ahead. As she finished, something unexpected happened. The applause returned, stronger this time, echoing in waves across the room. Clara's heart raced, fierce determination igniting within her. Yet she faced Mr. Walker, knowing this was just a small victory in an ongoing battle. Then a sudden, low sound of discontent rolled through the crowd. Clara's heart dropped as she turned, the source revealing a group of individuals who had come in late, expressions hostile and hard. They were here to voice an entirely different perspective, one that could shift everything they had just built. As they approached, Clara braced for what was to come. How could they stand united if there were still fragments of the past and present threatening to pull them apart? Would the lights of hope they forged today dim under the weight of new challenges? Could love truly be enough to conquer history? The tension in the room shifted as the newcomers strode forward, their very presence casting a shadow over the hopeful atmosphere Clara had tried to cultivate. Clara could see the fire in their eyes: anger, resentment, and something deeper that hinted at unresolved grievances. She steeled herself, heart racing, wondering how to hold the crowd together under this new pressure. Who do you think you are? One of them, a woman with sharp features and a fierce glare, shouted. You think you can just come in here and rewrite the narrative with your self-righteous forgiveness? Clara felt her breath catch. She glanced at Jake, who had gone silent, clutching her hand tightly. She wanted to shield him from the escalating confrontation, but they were in this together. She had to be strong for him, for everyone. Forgiveness isn't about erasing the past, Clara replied, voice firm yet gentle. It's about allowing us to move forward. We can't change what happened, but we can choose how we respond to it today. The woman scoffed, shaking her head. You think that by standing up here, you're the voice of this community? There are lives at stake. You want us to support this man who hurt our families? You want us to forget? A murmur spread through the crowd, as eyes darted from Clara to the woman, and back. Clara felt vulnerability wash over her as she met the woman's gaze. No one is asking anyone to forget. We just want to give people a chance to right their wrongs. The tension in the room twisted tighter, as Mr. Walker stood again, voice booming, "This isn't just about Mr. Thompson. You're talking about changing the way we feel about real hurt, real pain. It's too much to ask." Clara's heart sank. Here was the crux of it all, the very fear she sensed within the community. The old wounds, the scars etched deep in their hearts, seemed insurmountable. But just as she began to lose hope, she noticed Arthur rising again, his hands trembling visibly. "I get it. Trust me, I do," he said, his voice quavering but loud enough to command attention. "I made my mistakes, and I thought I was alone. But I wasn't. There were folks who believed in me. All I needed was a chance, and it changed everything." The hostile energy shifted slightly as some began to nod, reflections of empathy creeping into hardened faces. Clara seized the moment. What if it starts with listening? We can find unity in our differences. If we leave this room today divided, we only sow the seeds of more pain. A few murmurs of agreement surfaced, though many still wore expressions of doubt. Clara pushed on, fueled by a mix of hope and desperation. What if we came together, not just to forgive, but to understand? We can't pretend pain doesn't exist or it will continue to haunt us. But the woman wasn't ready to back down. And what if it all goes wrong? What if we open that door and it leads to more hurt? She stepped closer, brow furrowing in concern. A chorus of voices began to break through the rising tension, shared stories and memories surfacing as people began to reflect on their own experiences. They talked of hurt and healing, of shared histories and community bonds. Clara felt the flicker of possibility reigniting around her. Who are we without hope? Someone asked from the back, their voice soft but filled with resolve. What will it take to transform this division? With the crowd's hesitance beginning to shift into curiosity, Clara finally felt a flicker of the change she so desperately sought. Yet she still faced the woman, who stood as a testament to the very real fears that plagued them all. Can we truly take that risk? She pressed. Isn't it easier to turn our backs than to mend together? As the echoes of her question hung in the air, Clara locked eyes with Jake, who looked up at her with a mixture of fear and hope. The moment was heavy with unspoken possibilities, daring to challenge the status quo. Could they move forward? Could they bridge the chasms of hurt that defined them? The answers remained unformed, as the crowd edged toward a decision, a tipping point that could change everything. Clara held her breath, heart racing, knowing a choice was at hand. And in that nebulous moment, as doubt mingled with aspiration, she realized the truth. Sometimes, it takes just one voice to ignite real change, but could one voice be enough to silence the rest? Clara's heart thudded in her chest, her eyes scanning the crowd. The silence felt heavy, loaded with anticipation and trepidation. People shifted restlessly, fidgeting with their hands or exchanging anxious glances. Moments stretched into what felt like lifetimes, and all she could hear was the soft whisper of Jake's breath beside her. Then, in the back, a voice faltered through the murmur of uncertainty. It was Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman known for her kindness, her weathered face lined with experience. "I've lost so much," she started, her voice shaking but resolute. "My son, he was taken from me, from us. But I've also witnessed what forgiveness can do. It can heal. It can start something new." The room fell still, all eyes turning to her. Clara felt a glimmer of hope. If Mrs. Carter could demonstrate this strength, perhaps they all could. But the sharp-featured woman wasn't finished. And at what cost? she retorted, voice rising again. This isn't just about forgiveness. You all act as if it's that simple. You can't just forget the pain it has caused. Pain is real, Arthur interjected, his voice strong now, filled with passion. But if we keep letting it control us, we'll never be free. My past almost swallowed me whole. But I found light in others who chose to believe in me. Some murmurs of agreement trickled through again. Clara could sense the crowd shifting, the tightness of their grief starting to give way to something else: curiosity, perhaps even trust. We can't act like we haven't suffered, Jake said, squeezing Clara's hand tighter. But life is about wrestling with those scars together, isn't it? Isn't that what makes us stronger? A few heads nodded, and Clara could feel the weight of their shared experience weighing down on her. What if we shared our stories? She asked, her voice ringing out in the tension. What if we understood our pain together? Slowly, someone from the front stood up. It was Marcus, a local shop owner. I lost my daughter in that tragedy too. But through my pain, I learned to cherish the memories I made with her. Holding on to anger won't bring her back. A ripple of emotion began to pass through the room. Clara's pulse quickened. This was it. This was the moment, the threshold their community was teetering upon. Yet still, the sharp-featured woman crossed her arms tightly, doubtful but momentarily silent. Clara saw it, the wariness written across her face, the struggle to let go of bitterness. We need to keep ourselves safe, she insisted, her voice lower now, although no less intense. Forgiveness, it can be a trap just as much as a bridge. And not forgiving means being a prisoner to the past, Arthur countered. We can't let fear dictate our choices. What if we can create something beautiful out of this mess? Clara felt a surge of strength in his words. Together, we can honor those we've lost and still strive for healing. It's not about erasing their scars, it's about living with them in harmony. The murmurs grew louder. People exchanged looks, some with tears in their eyes, others with newfound determination. Clara could feel their emotions swell, and the ground beneath them shifting from bitterness to hope. Will you join us? Clara's voice broke through the noise, reaching toward the uncertain faces. Can we take that first step together? As they began to answer, some openly sharing their stories, the sharp-featured woman paused, her eyes glistening. It was a transformation, albeit small, but powerful nonetheless. Clara's heart swelled. A single act of kindness had met this moment, weaving bonds where there was once chasms. But as the shared stories flowed, a distant rumbling interrupted. The doors creaked open, and two men in dark suits stepped inside, eyes scanning the crowd with an unsettling intensity. Clara felt her stomach drop. Their presence threatened to unravel everything they had just begun to stitch together. Who were they, and what did they want? Would they bring chaos back into the fragile unity that was starting to form? The crowd's energy shifted again. Apprehension filling the space as Clara braced herself for the unknown. This was only the beginning. What awaited them next could change everything. Clara's gaze latched onto the men in suits. The crowd's murmurings faded into the background, and her focus sharpened. Who were they? What were they doing here? As their eyes scanned the room, uncertainty lurked in every heart. Jake squeezed her hand tighter. Stay calm, he whispered, though she could sense his own heartbeat racing. The sharp-featured woman was staring at the newcomers now, her posture tense. Clara watched as the crowd's energy shifted from hope back to confusion, anxiety sparking like static electricity in the air. Everyone, please, one of the men said, his voice smooth but firm. We're here on behalf of the families affected by the recent tragedy. We have important information to discuss. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine. The hush that followed was palpable, heavy with unspoken fears. What information? Clara could sense the collective breath of the room being held, the air thick with anticipation. The second man, taller with a slight scar tracing his jawline, stepped forward. We understand you've started to share your stories, which is admirable. But we need to make a cautionary statement regarding the investigation into the tragedy. It's crucial for everyone's safety and understanding. Whispers broke out like wildfire amidst the crowd. Some people shifted restlessly, while others cast worried glances around the room, showing that tension was creeping back in. Clara could almost hear the doubt clouding their thoughts. Did this mean their healing was threatened? The sharp-featured woman stepped forward. What do you mean by safety? We're tired of living in fear. We're trying to heal. The first man raised a hand, his calm demeanor still unwavering. Healing is essential, but we must also address the reality of what happened and its implications. We are working to prevent further incidents. You have to understand secrets keep us from truly moving forward. Clara's heart sank. Secrets? A part of the community had begun to unearth their pain, but now it felt like a shadow was creeping back in to snatch away their hard-won courage. She looked around at familiar faces, each reflecting a mix of concern and determination. Are you saying there is something we need to know? Another voice called out, biting with fear. Something that could jeopardize us again? Listen, the scarred man said, all we're asking is for you to trust the process. The anger you're feeling is valid, but so is the need for caution. We stand on the brink of more disruption if we don't tread carefully. As Clara listened, she felt her faith in the momentum of choice flicker like a candle in the wind. Was this really a moment for fear? Or was it an opportunity for their voices to rise in strength? Together, Clara called out, planting her feet firm on the floor as she gathered her breath, we should be ready to face anything. We've come this far. We won't let fear dictate our healing. A wide-eyed silence followed, then people began to nod, to murmur in agreement. A flicker of hope sparked back to life, slowly transforming the air from anxious to resilient. But just as that budding strength filled the room, a woman burst into the hall, panic etched across her face. Please, you have to help. Something terrible happened. It's about the tragedy. Clara's stomach twisted with unease. Who was this woman? What more could they face? Heart racing, she exchanged looks with Jake, their lives desiring clarity amidst chaos. This gathering, this spark of unity, could still teeter into something dark. What awaited them was still a haunting mystery. Clara braced herself, ready to fight for their fragile unity, but as the woman spoke, she sensed that the truth would soon unfold, one that could change everything all over again. What revelations were hiding just beneath the surface? Clara's heart raced as the woman caught her breath, her wide eyes darting around the room, trying to connect with someone, anyone. The air pulsed with anxious energy, steadily thickening like fog. Please! The woman exclaimed, desperation woven into her voice. I'm Emily. I was outside the community center when it happened. I saw something didn't feel right at all. A hush fell over the crowd. Clara felt a tension knot in her stomach. She exchanged a worried look with Jake, his brows furrowed in concern. What happened, Emily? Jake prompted, his voice steady but low. Everyone leaned in, their eyes locked onto her, unwilling to miss a single word. Emily swallowed hard, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a crumpled piece of paper. I can't explain it all clearly, but there were vehicles. Strange ones. They circled the block a couple of times before she paused, as if weighing the risks of continuing. Before what? Clara pushed, her own voice barely a whisper. Before that awful explosion, Emily finished, a shiver running through her as she met Clara's gaze. I think it wasn't an accident. I think it was planned. The shockwaves of her words rippled through the crowd. A few gasps pierced the silence, and murmurs swelled, rising like the crashing of waves against a cliff. Clara felt the room shifting around her, a flicker of disbelief morphing into a murmur of growing anger and confusion. Planned? Why haven't we heard this before? Someone called out, their voice tinged with frustration. Emily pressed on, her voice sharpening as the fear in her eyes turned to a steely resolve. "I've been trying to piece everything together since it happened. There were people I didn't recognize near the center that day before the chaos. They were watching." Fury erupted in the crowd, the unity Clara worked so hard to reignite now threatening to fracture. "So you're saying we've been lied to? That our pain was part of some sick game?" Behind her, the men in suits exchanged uncomfortable glances, their firm demeanor faltering. The one with the scar cleared his throat. "This is why we need to investigate further," he said, though Clara felt the shaky foundation of their authority begin to crumble. "I don't care about investigations," someone shouted. "I want to know what we can do." Clara felt the heat rising in her cheeks, a mix of passion and rebellion sparking within her. "We can demand answers. If there's more to this, we won't stand by while they control our narrative." Heads began to nod in agreement, voices rising again. A spark of collective defiance ignited, pulling Clara and the crowd back toward something tangible. Hope and determination surged like a wave crashing into a shore where before there had only been uncertainty. Jake's grip on her hand tightened, grounding her in the moment. "Clara, you're right. We need to come together. We need a plan," he murmured, urgency clear in his eyes. But just then, Emily interrupted, looking more frantic. "Wait. There's more. I couldn't see everything clearly, but I heard threats exchanged, names. It felt bigger than just us." Her voice grew more frantic, building in intensity. "And they know about you. They know about your stories." The room went quiet again, a heavy blanket of revelation embracing the crowd. Clara's heart raced as icy fingers gripped her spine. Could it be? Could their fight to share their stories put them in danger? An immediate cold rushed through her, and she saw fear flickering in others' eyes around her. What they had thought was a path to healing may now turn into a fight for survival. Clara took a steadying breath, ready to confront this challenge head-on. "Then we stand together, no matter what. No one will silence us." But deep down, dread gnawed at her. Could they truly protect themselves against forces they might not even understand? As she scanned the worried faces around her, she wondered not just what truths remained hidden, but how far they were willing to go to uncover them. The urgency of the moment hung heavy, promising a confrontation that would stretch their courage to its limits. What were they really up against? Clara felt the weight of Emily's revelation crash over her like a tidal wave. Everything they had built, every thread of connection, now teetered at the edge of uncertainty. The crowd's anxiety bore down like the hum of a swarm of bees, buzzing louder with each heartbeat. They were faced not just with the burdens of the past, but with the ghosts of a looming danger entwined in their shared future. "We can't let fear dictate our actions," Clara shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos, desperation fueling her words. "Our stories matter. We've come this far, and we won't back down now." Jake's grip tightened around her hand, his youthful conviction pushing her to stand taller. His eyes burned bright with belief. In that moment, Clara realized it was their innocence and strength that illuminated the path forward. From the back, Arthur's voice rose next. "We've survived loss, betrayal, and pain. We won't let anyone take away our resolve. If it means standing together, then let us do it." This was it. The moment of unity they had yearned for. Several others stepped forward, sharing their own insights of hope and resilience, as the room began to pulse with renewed strength. Clara watched as eyes lit up not with trepidation, but with determination to fight back. "Let us gather our stories," she proposed, creating a ripple of energy that surged through the crowd. "Let us document every moment, every witness who has experienced the shadows of this tragedy. Each letter combined into one voice would surely capture the truth." People nodded, voices lifted in agreement, rallying around the idea that they would not be excluded from writing their own narrative. A plan was taking shape, one that would weave together their drastic experiences into a tapestry of resilience. Clara glanced at Emily, who stood frozen, her face a mixture of fear and resolve. "You were there, Emily. Your insights are key. Join us in capturing this." Emily hesitated, her past overshadowed by dread. Yet Clara could see the flicker of courage within her as she slowly nodded. "I'll help, whatever it takes," her voice quiet but unwavering. As the group began to form a strategy, Clara realized this wasn't just about unearthing hidden truths anymore, it was about reclaiming their agency. They were no longer victims of a tragedy, they were survivors with voices echoing through Maplewood's streets, ready to transform pain into purpose. In the coming days, they worked tirelessly gathering evidence, recording testimonies, and building a foundation of truth and courage. They set up a community board, creating a haven where stories could be shared and preserved, like images splashed vibrantly across a canvas. Then came the moment. The community hall, the place where fractured paths converged. They called a meeting, inviting everyone. Clara stood in front, flanked by faces filled with resolve, willing to share their truth. "Tonight, we stand united," Clara said, her heart pounding in her chest. "Tonight, we share the stories we've collected. These tales reflect our journey, every scar, every triumph. We will shine a light on the darkness that has haunted us." As Clara spoke, she could see the emotions in the crowd, a blend of fear, hope, and determination. She encouraged each voice to rise, an anthem ringing in unison. One by one, they shared their experiences, faces glistening with tears, laughter, and moments of reflection, each soul carving out its rightful place in the larger narrative. Patients listened, skeptics began to soften, and old rivalries melted in the warmth of shared humanity. Clara could feel the burdens lifting, a fresh sense of community growing around them, a rebuilding forged in honesty and vulnerability. Yet just when they thought they had faced their fears, the dark-suited men stepped forward, intent on quenching the spirit ignited. "We have our resources," the scarred man warned, eyes narrowed and steady. "You have to understand, this isn't safe." Clara stepped forward, courage swelling within. "Safety lies in truth. If we allow fear to dictate our actions, we risk burying our pain deeper. This is not just our fight, it's a chance to expose what was concealed, to empower our community." An uproar erupted, voices rising and intertwining, the battle for their narratives echoing in the hall. Then Mrs. Carter rose, her voice steady as she spoke into the fray. "You have divided us for too long. The truths we uncover will bind us together again with resolution. We will not be silent." The crowd erupted once more, the sound a cacophony of hope. Clara felt a warmth spread throughout her, her heart raced as new life breathed through Maplewood, a transformation ignited by unity. Days later, after endless conversations and shared laughter, Clara stood outside in the soft morning light with Jake by her side. They watched as townsfolk gathered, old wounds stitched closer together with each story shared, as connections blossomed anew. "Mom," Jake said, his voice bursting with wonder, "look how everyone is working together." She smiled, feeling a surge of pride. "This is only the beginning, Jake. Watch as kindness and truth stitch a stronger fabric. This is what healing looks like." As they joined the gathering, a revelation shared, a community reborn, they realized how beautifully resilient they now stood. They would no longer be afraid. They would forge their paths, crafted through empathy and community spirit. Maplewood was transformed, as promised, into a sanctuary of love, a radiant beacon glimmering amidst the chaos. With resolve in her heart, Clara took a step forward, embracing a future untethered by fear but radiant with possibilities. They had unraveled their pain through stories, their power now palpable, a journey meant to inspire all who dared to believe. This was their moment, this was their home. Now, it's your turn to be part of this incredible community. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Be part of our journey.